Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that?
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
I accept full responsibility. If someone is unhappy, somebody wants to blame someone or complain about someone, blame me.
I want them to appreciate the incredible job we're doing. We are doing a job the likes of which has never been done before.
If you don't want to take the political heat, you shouldn't be in the political kitchen.
All right, there's a lot to get to, but we certainly won't have time. We've been pressed for time of late. We have been working at all hours and for many hours a day. It's an endless circle, but it won't be, and we'll sort of address that in what we get to here. The medical community, and largely Democrats, were smart enough at the very beginning of the pandemic to acknowledge the pandemic and stay in to mitigate the COVID-19 spread. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants to just stay in. Everyone wants to get back to work, to jobs they have that may be denoted as non-essential presently. But as you're seeing, jobs that are mundane, sometimes looked down upon, grocery store bagger, grocery store clerk, people in the produce department, drivers of the trucks that bring the toilet paper and the paper towels to the store, along with the chicken and the fish and all the frozen vegetables you're buying, the hand sanitizer, soaps, shampoos, etc. All of that. Those are the people bringing your Lysol. Those are more than essential now and have always been essential, as is every job. Every job worth doing is worth doing well, period. That's just how it works. And now we're getting a microscopic look at how society works behind the theater curtain. Yeah, there's grand lighting. There are different color gels that produce extraordinary atmospheres for theater, for film. Those people don't often get seen. Now you're seeing them. Again, every job worth doing is worth doing well. Doesn't matter what you're doing. We're all on the same level when it comes to that. Doctors like ourselves are no more or less important than that cashier at the grocery store. And now everyone gets to see that. Everyone wants to get back to work, not at risk of life. The GOP death panels think differently. They're always critical, always putting themselves above everyone, always putting themselves on an imaginary pedestal that doesn't exist. You've heard it with their faith and family values, from a bunch of wife cheats, pedophiles, and grossly disgusting perverts like Donald Drumpf, a self-confessed sexual assaulter, a repeat offender who's proud of being a felon. The GOP values money. They love money. They love the death penalty, where people are put to death. They love guns, which take lives, and they love wars, which take lots and lots of lives. So the GOP's death panels have been working overtime to say that we should restart the economy and disregard American lives.
The projections that you just mentioned are down to 60,000. I don't think it'll be that high. 13,000 dead now in the USA. Many people who are dying both here and around the world were on their last legs anyway, and I don't want to sound callous about that.
Yes, we shut down, but the shutdown did not stop the spread of the virus. I wish it had, but it's too late for that. The shutdown slowed the spread of the virus at enormous cost, but it still spread. When we end the shutdown, the virus is going to spread faster. That's just a fact, and the American people understand that. So when we open up, and we're going to have to, and somebody's got to make the call, We've got to be smart about how we do it. Don't open up in the middle of a hot spot.
Senator Ron Johnson is pushing back against accusations he profited off the coronavirus outbreak. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes tweeted last night, "People are losing their jobs and their small businesses while our senior U.S. Senator sold between $5 and $25 million right before the market crash."
Bill O'Reilly, a moron. GOP idiots like Phil and Oz, these doctors who are imbeciles, who want people to die, who should have their medical licenses pulled immediately, revoked. They took a Hippocratic oath as doctors that says the very first rule is do no harm. They are suggesting that people die. Infants, babies. You hear it from Dr. Oz, a buffoon and clown who should be ripped off the air. And if anyone dies after taking advice from Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz, they should file lawsuits. They should go to a good firm that handles class action lawsuits and see if they can round up some folks to make sure that those people pay for the despicable acts and actions that they're making on national TV to largely an audience of ignorant, naive people who are just hoping desperately to hear something that will be valuable to their lives. And they're hearing the exact opposite. Someone who's encouraging death. These are not decent human beings. These are despicable animals. And now on to UV light. Donald Drumpf, an absolute imbecile that doesn't know anything about anything, suggested UV light be used to somehow ward off or kill the COVID-19 virus.
So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Probably the dumbest thing ever. That's an extraordinarily bad idea, not to mention that it's simply not feasible. People can go to a tanning salon and get adequate UV light, short term, to darken the pigment of their skin. Beyond that, you're risking an enormous amount of problem. Huge sunburn, depending on the length of time and the exposure and the degree of the UV light itself, you can virtually cause your own death. So that's a bad idea. And then he mentions using it somehow internally, which is one of the stupidest things that's ever been said. He's an absolute moron. Doesn't know anything about anything. Drumpf is telling people to go get sunburn, and that's somehow going to mitigate the spread of the virus within their own system, within their body. That won't happen. You'll die from the sunburn first, or the exposure to UV light, which will not work. You'll destroy your body. So that's an idiotic thing to say. The next idiotic thing that idiot Drumpf has said and has done is constantly pushing the unproven, untested, unresearched drug, hydroxychloroquine. It is not an effective drug, according to many studies. As soon as Drumpf started touting it, it was obvious that he had some sort of vested interest. Probably he's a penniless bum who's never been a success at anything. This is an imbecile who started a mortgage company during the George W. Bush and GOP collapse of the mortgage institution, right at that moment, drumpf started drumpf Mortgage Company, which collapsed shortly thereafter, as all of his fake businesses and creepy fake charities and scams and other frauds do. They always do, like his university. So don't take advice from an idiot. This is a moron who looked at a solar eclipse when told not to. Drumpf always does the opposite of good advice. So when doctors tell him not to do something, he does it. Drumpf doesn't have any common sense. Drumpf is an idiot. So Drumpf has been all over TV promoting hydroxychloroquine. This is not an effective drug or therapy for the COVID-19 virus. They just did a Veterans Administration study. More patients died from taking hydroxychloroquine in the study than those that didn't. And we're finding out other problems. It's fine for lupus. It's fine as an anti-malarial in specific instances where it's being administered by a doctor who's had an enormous amount of experience with doing those treatments. That's what it's used for. It doesn't go outside those parameters until it's been subjected to an enormous amount of testing to ensure that it is safe for future patients who may be taking them. So don't do anything that Drumpf tells you to do. It'll be just like his mortgage company and go belly up in a matter of hours, minutes, days, weeks, months, generally not years. Most of his businesses collapse almost immediately because the endeavors and the ventures themselves were ill-planned and from the very beginning, ill-fated. Drumpf is a total idiot. He took a huge amount of money, transferred, you can look it up, transferred from his campaign into his personal account. You could probably safely bet that Drumpf took that money and invested it into stock of companies that make hydroxychloroquine. Drumpf is a simple-minded, greedy idiot who fails at everything always. Take his advice, you'll follow him right down into the garbage. And, in this case, regarding a lethal disease, you will die. You'll absolutely die. So will your family members. We also want to shout out for California. Thank goodness for California's brilliant doctors and their incredibly smart Democratic leadership that listened to their doctors, leading the way for the United States. They uncovered the first non-travel related communication of COVID-19 virus. So shout out to California's doctors for their incredibly diligent and very ethical leadership in helping be the first place to put in a lockdown, put that in place, and start mitigating the spread of this virulent plague-like disease. Drumpf has fired those expert doctors, by the way. He fired someone who went out and criticized hydroxychloroquine as this cure-all that Drumpf has been touting it as. That individual has been demoted, and in his place, the great genius Drumpf, who only hires the best people, put in an idiot whose previous experience at 37 years old consists of 6 years running a dog breeding company. He put in charge of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic a guy who breeds labradoodles, or has for 6 years. You could probably look into those credentials too and find out whether this kid was good at that or not. So we've got a dog breeder replacing a virologist who's worked in medicine his whole life and has spent his life protecting people from pandemics like this. We now have a dog breeder in place of him, that doctor. In any normal government, business, organization, those people would be forced to resign, and the individuals that put them in would be forced to resign. It goes without saying that we've made consistently the recommendation that Donald Drumpf and Mike Penice resign. Then we can put in President Pelosi, who's been overwhelmingly successful at getting things done for Americans. We can put her in to save us from this gigantic mess that's been created by Drumpf and his minions, lackeys, co-vultures, despicable racists, sexists, Nazis, and traitors. They're all either incompetent or criminal, and they're all treasonous. Drumpf has no concern for the U.S. death toll. It only makes self-serving lies, which doctors are now contradicting right to the imbecile's face.
Dr. Robert Redfield was totally misquoted in the media on a statement about the fall season and the virus. Totally misquoted.
You were accurately quoted, correct?
I'm accurately quoted in the Washington Post.
Drumpf is an unelectable turd, an absolute disaster, and we now have to get rid of this piece of crap. So make sure on November 3rd you vote to flush this turd. Flush the turd, November 3rd. We'll get through the virus. It's going to come in waves. We have to prepare for those waves. Just like there's a flu season, this is going to come along with it. So each flu cycle you can expect, until there's a properly researched vaccine that has a high efficacy rate, until that happens, we're going to have to deal with successive waves of this virus, of the COVID-19 SARS-2 type virus. This is going to live with us for a while, maybe a couple of years. So be prepared, stay in, stay well, flush the turd November 3rd.
I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.